Alexis Lane, part 2 of final. And just to clarify on one last thing from part 1, so there are also pre-made things set up. So for my models, you have the option to also do the pre-made models. For the texture, you can load in just as a pixel, and the shaders are just going to be their names. And now we will move on into the alarms. The alarms were quite a pain, good struggle, but they are the first alphabetically of my chunks of the game objects. So in the alarm, we have an opportunity to have what I had 3 alarms, and the alarms will be triggered by my trigger alarm as appropriately titled. Each alarm has the registration data necessary to make sure of its registration state and of its reference for deletion, for quick delete, and of its commands. So now down here we have very similar setup for all of our exables, where you have your registration and deregistration. So I'm going to quick show my alarms. My alarms are up here. Up here we've got my alarmable, which has everything that it needs in it, along with its manager, its attorney, as well as its commands. So in alarmable, the funky parts come with the registration, where I'll take in the ID and I'll just make sure that things are a-okay. With the deregistration, I was having a lot of troubles, especially with this, because the way I have it set up, the order of events, it can't ever be pending deregistration because it just needs to automatically go out, along with so this one works a little better, except I made a note in my documentation that I say it can only be used, the submit alarm deregistration can only be used if it is before the alarm has gone off, otherwise it'll throw error out here with this assert, because then it'll be deregistered, and you can't deregister a deregistered alarm, which would make sense. So my 3 alarms, I'll have their messages going out if they are not overloaded by the user. So hopefully my user would overload these. Again, my destructor goes through and will actually delete all of my commands, because my commands are nude for each alarm. I used to have this if statement in here, and then I remembered that you can do this wonderful trick of just casting onto the thing. And so yeah, so I got my delete reference again. With the trigger alarms, it is still in the switch mode, which is okay. So I go through, I go in, first thing I do is I deregister it, and then I'll go ahead and deregister it, and then it'll go and break through. So I am using an array for my data, because there's 3. So within the alarms, I'm using the arrays. Within the actual manager, I am going to be using the multi-map so that I can have that wonderful timeline. I'm using the usings because those are awesome. Similarly, I've got in here, so yeah, the timeline, I've got my register. So this will go in here, and it'll place the point where it'll be chronologically needed, and so when the time is just before, just greater than the last time, and put in, it'll be put in. So then it'll be in that chronological order. And here, when it processes the alarms, then it goes through and it'll stop at the time needed of the latest alarm. And it'll process all the alarms up to the time. And finally, I didn't really add anything else to the alarm system, but it works as I have shown in this video now and previous videos I have with my Phaco tanks. That's what I'm going to call them. They're not really much to look at currently. My enemy tank is a user of repeated alarms, so every time that it's switching back and forth, good lord, let me scroll down please. So anyway, it'll go back and forth, and then after my computer stops crashing, there it goes. You can see it now, and it'll just submit the same alarm over and over up here, so it'll just keep submitting that same alarm. My other tank is a multiple alarm user, I believe it was my other tank. Somewhere in here I had multiple alarms. Yes, here we've got my 2 alarms, and they do go off if I can scroll all the way up. So so much garbage. Okay, let's see if I can make it go real fast, because I really want to show it that it does work. And then I can start talking about the keyboard input as it starts to run. So in here I've got my keys. There we go. So alarm 0 is going off, alarm 1 is going off. And that's from my aptly named frigate tank. And so my keys are able to be registered to both the space, to the key of release and press. In here I have my bullets being made on the release at the place of my tank, and in my world plane I just tossed in, this is where my quote-unquote hard change of the scene is, in here. So right now I just have it as a switch, and I've got my release and my key pressed. So if I actually go into the inputables here, so my inputable, wonderfully documented up there and around here, also has the same system as alarms, except now it just takes in 2 of the parameters of the key and the event type, and this is put in just as a map, because for the inputables it just needs to be just one and the other. With the management of the inputables, I've got both the keyboard event manager and the single key event manager. Keyboard event manager takes care of the single event manager. It goes and inserts if it's not already put in. So we're going to go through here, and if it has already been registered, it's gonna be saying, oh hey, we're gonna register you into the single key event manager. But if that has already been in use, it's gonna throw an error, because amazing, you shouldn't have L bound to a pressed event twice, because bad things can happen. And so then, on the other hand, if you have not been registered, you just go ahead and do the do and go and make a new single key event manager. And it is literally the same exact thing as what I just said. Processing the keys is a little more fun because then you get to go through and you get to go through the press list and through the release list. And this is in my single event key manager. The single event key manager over here, now I'm in it, is a map along with the keyboard event manager, which is also a map, because I need to have that ability to have a key joke on the key. We need to have a unique key and a event to go along with it. So having that doubled up works wonderfully, and it also works great for fast find and quick release of everything. So yes, so it's got its 2 in here, and it makes sure I had forgot that I struggled so much with the key change press and the key release. But to go back into the key press event, it does the do's so that it makes sure that the state of the key is only pressed once. And I forgot that I would need a key state for the press and for the release down here. For my some reason geniusness, that I would only need one of those at the beginning, but that was incorrect. So we're doing things efficiently here, especially efficiently because we've got the erase and insert, which are very important. Similarly done over in here, where we got insert here and erase. So we're knocking those slowpokes out. And that will be the end of the input. After input, we should probably show, what does the paper say? Oh, we should show the class diagram. Oh, amazing. I think I actually didn't do those ones. But we will do it in the next video.